Hello and welcome to yet another edition of Sports Talk. It's Saturday, May 13, 2023. I'm Daniel Blake. Thank you so much for joining me. It is also quite a special show because it is the pre-Mother's Day edition. That's right. Mother's Day is tomorrow. So before I continue, I just want to say happy Mother's Day in advance to all the mothers out there. Um, mothers, grandmothers, great grandmothers, godmothers, mothers to be. That's also quite important. Um, just letting you know that we appreciate you because literally without you, none of us would be here. Well, obviously, God, but you gave birth. Went through all that labor and pain so that all of us could be here. So if you are listening, just have a great day tomorrow. And yeah, just hope that you enjoy yourself to the max, that your children or whoever decides to treat you very special. Just reminding you that you can listen and watch the show in several different ways. So if you are on YouTube and Facebook, go to Love FM Jamaica's pages and you should see me live there right now. So hello to everybody watching on YouTube and Facebook. If you are listening on the app, thank you so much. For those who aren't, you can download it in the Google Play or App Store, depending on what smart device you have. If you don't want to download the app, that's fine. You can go on your internet browser, love101.org, listen live there. Or if you like to do it the old-fashioned way, just go on your radio wherever you are on the island and go to 101, 101.1, 357 or 9, depending on where you are on the island. So truly appreciate your support week in and week out. It means a lot. So we're going to, on this pre-Mother's Day edition, try our very best to honor mothers in sports and just talk about some of the issues that they face, and hopefully we'll be joined by a very special guest, which I will reveal when that time comes. By the way, remember, you can also interact with me during the show at 876-997-3125. That's 876-997-3125. That is our WhatsApp number. So if you have any comments or thoughts about any sporting topic, you can leave it there. Or if you're watching on YouTube and Facebook, you can leave it in the comments. You can even tell me who are your, some of your favorite moms in sports. I know most of you would say Shelly and Fraser Price and Serena Williams or whatever, but just let me know and how inspirational they have been, and I will ensure that those are read on air. All right, so we want to get into my monologue very shortly, but as always, I love to start out with the mini sports report, which I call the sports bits. So let's start with track and field. And speaking of a mother, because there is concern over sprint icon Shelly and Fraser Price, who pulled out of the Kip Keino Classic in Nairobi, Kenya due to injury. The 5-time world champion felt discomfort in her knee in training on Thursday and alerted event organizers that the situation had deteriorated to a point that it needed immediate treatment. Fraser Price reportedly left Kenya to receive treatment in Italy. On her social media pages, she said she was disappointed not to run and hopes to get back to the track soon. It's the second time that Fraser Price has had to delay her 2023 season debut as she pulled out of the Botswana Golden Grand Prix last month, citing a family emergency. Meanwhile, Fraser Price was named Laureus World Sportswoman of the Year on Monday night at the prestigious 2023 Laureus World Sports Awards in Paris. She won a record fifth 100-meter gold at the World Athletics Championships in Oregon last year and clocked some of the fastest times in history along the way. She has more world sprint titles than any other athlete, and in 2022, she ran sub 10 sevens for 100 meters, 7 times, three more than the previous best by a female sprinter in a calendar year. She is the third Jamaican athlete to win the award. Elaine Thompson-Herah won in 2022 for her exploits at the Tokyo Olympics, while Usain Bolt won in 2009, 2010, 13, and 17. Lionel Messi earned the World Sportsman of the Year after guiding Argentina to the World Cup in December. Now, another bit of unfortunate news as world 100-meter hurdle silver medalist and national record holder Brittany Anderson is out for the rest of the season because of injury. Anderson confirmed via social media that she suffered a knee injury, which has forced her to sit out the 2023 campaign. Though she competed indoors earlier this year in the 60-meter hurdles, she had yet to open her 100-meter hurdles campaign after a 2022 season where she won her first major global medal of her career and finishing behind world record holder Toby Amusan. So wishing all the best to Brittany Anderson and also to Shelley and Fraser Price in their recovery. Now, former West Indies captain Darren Sammy has been appointed head coach of the West Indies ODI and T20 teams. Sammy, who led the team to the T20 World Cup titles in 2012 and 16, has had coaching stints in the Caribbean Premier League and the Pakistan Super League. His first assignment will be the 3-match ODI series against the United Arab Emirates in June, ahead of the ICC Men's World Cup qualifier tournament in Zimbabwe. Meanwhile, Jamaican Andre Coley was named head coach of the Test team, and his first assignment will be the 2-match Test series against India in the Caribbean in July. Both Sammy and Coley replaced Phil Simmons, who stepped down from all forms of coaching the West Indies last year. Cricket West Indies also announced that the women's coach would be announced in the coming weeks after not renewing the contract of Jamaican legend Courtney Walsh. Now, the Reggae Boys will prepare for this summer's CONCACAF Gold Cup scheduled for June in the USA and Canada, with 2 friendlies against Qatar and Jordan on June 15th and 19th, respectively, in Austria. GFF President Michael Ricketts said the matches are to give the Reggae Boys the best opportunity to prepare for the World Cup. The Gold Cup, pardon me. I wish it was a World Cup, but it's a Gold Cup. The Reggae Boys faced Qatar last August as they prepared to host the World Cup, playing out a 1-1 draw, while this will be the first time Jamaica and Jordan will be doing battle. Jamaica's first match of the Gold Cup will come against defending champions USA on June 24 in Chicago. In local football, as Cavalier have the best advantage following the first leg semi-finals in the Link Cup knockout competition on Friday at Stadium East. Cavalier beat Dun Beholden 1-0, which means a draw will be good enough for them to advance to the final. Meanwhile, Portmore and Harbourview have it all to play for as they drew 2-2. The second leg will be played next Friday with the final set for May 26. And finally, the Los Angeles Lakers sent the defending champions Golden State Warriors packing after winning their Western Conference semifinals series 4-2 following a dominant 122-101 victory on Friday. LeBron James and the Lakers will now face off against Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets, who beat the Phoenix Suns 4-2 in their series. Over in the East, the Miami Heat booked their ticket to the conference final after a 4-2 series win over the New York Knicks. They now await the winner of the Boston Celtics and Philadelphia 76ers series, who play their Game 7 decider on Sunday. So the NBA getting down to the last stages, and as a Laker fan, I am super excited. Trust me. Super excited. Boy. And you remember Shanelle Ann, who was on our show just a few weeks ago, who was hoping that the Warriors would make it all the way. Um, Unfortunately, it didn't go that way. Anyways, it's time for my monologue for this week, the Danielog.
Hi, this is David Blake.
This is Hope Blake.
I am Ariel Brown Blake.
I'm here to tell you right now.
It's time for the Danielog.
The Daniel Log.
The Danielog.
I love it. Presented by.
Yeah. All right. So I want to keep my monologue Mother's Day based because I don't think we realize how important it is and how impressive it is to see women in sports competing at the highest level, but most importantly, doing it as mothers. Now, there have been several instances where women have taken time off sports to go and have their child, whether they planned it or not. It has happened. We know that it happened with Shelley Ann Fraser Price, which was the key reason why she missed that period between 2017 and 2018. Serena Williams, and there are a whole host of top women's footballers and basketballers who have also taken time off to have their child, and they return to the sport. And they return playing at an extremely high level. Now, I don't know about you, but I hope this don't sound anyway. So, like when you're doing abs, anybody here listening, do abs before, like the exercise where you try to get abs and stuff, like if you do too much or your body feels like you can't do anymore, you start feeling those like cramps in your stomach or like those ab cramps. You don't know what I'm talking about, man. So I remember one time doing it and I got those ab cramps, right? And when I tell you, I felt like I was I was dying. It was really bad. Zine. And that was just for maybe 5 minutes. To know that these athletes, top athletes, go through all their symptoms, aches, and pains for 8-9 months, give birth, having to take care of their child, and then to come back and perform at an extremely high level, that's something that can't be understated or underestimated. Because back then, having a child throughout your career was seen almost as a career killer, because your body, in essence, according to scientists and coaches and a lot of instances in the past, your body isn't supposed to come back from that, right? But we've seen women all over the world do it. And it just amazes me because there shouldn't be, I mean, it almost defies, well, it definitely defies science, but it just makes me appreciate them even more, and to know that they have further responsibilities. It's a lot different from men who have children and continue to compete, because they don't really get affected physically. Yes, the mental side, knowing that they have children to take care of, but more often than not, they have their partners and whoever. But we know how mothers are and women are very maternal. So not only the physical side, but the mental side is huge. And to know that we have had women who have been doing it and doing it extremely well, it just continues to baffle me, especially when I see Shelly, finding time to spend with her son, spend time with her son Zion. We saw her competing at his sports day, winning the race, beating all those women. And she talks very highly of her, role as a mother and whatever, but she still goes out there and performs. The same was with Serena, and same with many other athletes. So for all the women who are competing in sports and you are a mother as well, Daniel is telling you that you are amazing. You are truly amazing. Because trust me, I don't know how you do it. I honestly don't. But continue to do it. Because you are an inspiration, not only, for all women, but even for some of the men. Like, them for step it up, them now have all them things they are going on. Yeah. That was my monologue for this week. More sports talk after the break, and reminding you that sports talk is brought to you by Jamaica Customs Agency, country above self. Stay with us right here on Sports Talk as we continue our pre-Mother's Day edition.
Under the Law helps you to know your rights and how the laws of Jamaica can help you defend those rights. We've been doing it for 50 years. That's right. Join us on Thursdays at 6:20 a.m., 2:35, 6:45, and 9:10 p.m. Compliments of the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities. Educating, advocating, empowering. Under the Law, Thursdays on Love 101 FM.
Every Sunday, Love 101 FM brings you times of worship in music and the spoken word to encourage and uplift. Tune in at 8 a.m. for a powerful word from the Kingston Open Bible Church and for the blessing that awaits you. At 10 a.m., it's time for Divine Service with the Bethel Baptist Church, where words of encouragement are shared. Then at 11 a.m., it's time to pause for Sunday service at the New Testament Church of God shares the word of the Lord. The United Church service begins at 3:30 Sunday afternoon with words of inspiration. The Anglican Diocese brings words to strengthen you at 6 p.m. Be sure to join every Sunday to worship in God's presence with a series of specially prepared messages in words and musical inspiration by tuning in to Love 101 FM, the family station.
Every time I read my Bible.
Love 101, the family station, invites you to come on another journey with us through the Bible with Love. For 2022, Love 101 presents the following Jesus Bible reading plan from the YouVersion app. We will take you through the entire Bible once again, but this time it will be different. We will share a reading from the Old Testament, the New Testament, and a selection from Proverbs and Psalms. Come with us through the Bible with Love every day for 2022 here on the family station, Love 101.
I get a little naughty.
Under the Law helps you to know your rights and how the laws of Jamaica can help you defend those rights. We've been doing it for 50 years. That's right. Join us on Thursdays at 6:20 a.m., 2:35, 6:45, and 9:10 p.m. Compliments of the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities. educating, advocating, empowering. Under the Law, Thursdays on Love 101 FM.
Every Sunday, Love 101 FM brings you times of worship in music and the spoken word to encourage and uplift. Tune in at 8 a.m. for a powerful word from the Kingston Open Bible Church and for the blessing that awaits you. At 10 a.m., it's time for Divine Service with the Bethel Baptist Church, where words of encouragement are shared. Then at 11 a.m., it's time to pause for Sunday service at the New Testament Church of God shares the word of the Lord. The United Church service begins at 3:30 Sunday afternoon with words of inspiration. The Anglican Diocese brings words to strengthen you at 6 p.m. Be sure to join every Sunday to worship in God's presence with a series of specially prepared messages in words and musical inspiration by tuning in to Love 101 FM, the family station.
Lord, we give the thanks for the way you've been ahead. Every time I read my Bible.
Love 101, the family station, invites you to come on another journey with us through the Bible with Love. For 2022, Love 101 presents the following Jesus Bible reading plan from the YouVersion app. We will take you through the entire Bible once again, but this time it will be different. We will share a reading from the Old Testament, the New Testament, and a selection from Proverbs and Psalms. Come with us through the Bible with Love every day for 2022 here on the family station, Love 101.
I get a little naughty.
Every time my son send the liquor bottle for me, I have to go sit down and waff all day like me have nothing else to do. No, sir, me no fear do this.
Tired of spending all day at the wharf to clear your barrel?
Driver, turn up that the little bit for me there.
Starting May 1, use contactless clearance to clear your non-commercial shipments and avoid the long wait. Call Jamaica Customs today at 876-922-51408 or email contactlessclearance@jca.gov.jm.
But God goody, me I go call customs and learn about the contactless clearance. Hook me up.
Less waiting, more convenience. Try Customs contactless clearance today.
This is Asafa Powell, one of the fastest men in the world, and you're listening to Love 101, your family station.
Welcome back to Sports Talk here on Love 101, the family station. I apologize for that little lengthy break. Had a minor technical difficulty, but sorted it out. All right. So remember, this is the pre-Mother's Day edition. And as I mentioned to you, I wanted to talk about, honoring mothers in sports, some of the challenges they face, and several others. So there was a feature done by this YouTube channel or this podcast called Off the Ball, where they spoke about some of the challenges that mothers face returning to sports, specifically high-level football in the UK. So we're going to hear that feature and then we'll continue the show. So let's get to that one.
Now, you're very welcome back. So we are turning to an interview on this week's Koi Gig podcast. Emma McCandy is the Reading captain. She is the Scottish captain. She's a high-profile player. And speaking to the podcast, and the interview has made waves, both sides of the Irish Sea. The FA have responded to it as well. She was highlighting the lack of support for pregnant players. And her experience, as you'll hear, back in 2021, was a pretty miserable one.
I think it was a season that we came back after COVID. So I think I played up until I was like 8 weeks. I remember playing, we played, I never really got morning sickness, but I used to feel really, really sick like later on in the afternoon, and we played Bristol away in like a night game. And it was like, I had the pre-match and I was like, oh, like I was literally like run. We ended up getting beat actually that night as well. And I just thought, I can't do this any longer, because like you just end up kind of running a wee bit weird. Cause like, I've got a little baby in my belly, and like you didn't want to get hit, and like that's not my game. Like I like the hit folk. So yeah, like I then had to then fake an injury because I didn't want to tell people that I was pregnant until the 12-week scan. Just because you didn't know if everything's going to be all right. So that was pretty tough. I then did have to tell the coach, because it was probably not right that I kept it for that long anyway. But at the same time, you didn't really want to. I think at the time in that as well, there was nothing in the contracts to say that if you were pregnant, there was no any support put in place. So I didn't want to tell anybody in case it didn't go down well. Then obviously you're a bit like, well, they can't sack you because you could basically sue them. So I kind of had that on my side as well. But no, like I mean, I'm not really sure if everybody was buzzing for me, but they obviously said that they were. Then after that, I just kind of done my own bit of training, which when I look back, it was actually really, really lonely, like, which is quite sad to think about it, but you just kind of get left to do your own thing. I think that's another thing. There's not really that much research on that side of stuff to say how much, like, you can and can't do. So every single day, like, I basically just went on the bike. Then when I got too heavy, I just went swimming. And I felt that I had to go to training every day as well, just because they were still paying me. So I felt under pressure to still be at the training ground every single day. Like, even at, like, 40 weeks, I was still going in, because I just was like, well, maybe not actually 40 weeks, because I think I broke off 39 maybe, and she was 2 weeks late anyway. So, but yeah, like I think that was pretty tough, because at least like if you do, like, you've got like a long-term injury and that, you have like a program and like there's milestones to hit, and like you start progressing, and the coaches show a little bit more interest in you because you're closer to being back and like more useful for them. Whereas like you're pregnant and you're out for 9 months and probably never, I was 7 at the back of that you're no good to the team, so you do just kind of get like left to the side. And yeah, but I mean, everybody would probably be the same. Maybe that's just, or maybe they just didn't like me. I'm not really sure.
So that's Emma McCandy speaking on the Koi Gig podcast. Well worth checking out the full interview. Emma Byrne was part of it, part of the Koi Gig podcast and that interview. Former Republic of Ireland and Arsenal goalkeeper. She's with us on the line. Evening, Emma.
Hello, how are you?
Very well. Yeah, great. Louise Galvin, Kerry footballer, Irish Rugby International, high profile return to the Kerry jersey shortly after giving birth as well. Louise, great to have you on. Thanks for the time.
Thanks for the show. How are you?
Great. Emma, you obviously sat in on that full interview. It sounded, just to talk about Emma McCandy specifically for a moment, it certainly sounded like her experience at Reading was a miserable one. What struck you about the interview?
I know Emma very, very well, so I was kind of with her through all the steps anyway. I just think, it kind of hit home when she was saying about how lonely it was. She was on her own. As any injury is, when you're injured, coming back, it is quite a lonely place. But the fact that she was going to be out for that long and she had to basically try and keep herself right on her own, I thought it was a little bit sad. But that's how it is. That's how inexperienced the clubs are at the moment in this regard. Like, they don't have any experience on how to train a pregnant footballer and what they need to do with these players. So it's just basically down to inexperience.
On the financial side, Emma, so there was a study in 2017, FIFPro did at the World Players Union, and they found an amazing statistic, really, that just 2% of players were mothers. Many women quit the sport, quit football because of a lack of maternity policy. So that was a real crisis point, I would think, in 2017. 2021, FIFA implemented new rules for maternity leave. So players entitled to a minimum of 14 weeks maternity cover on 2/3 their salary, And the English FA went one step further. It was 14 weeks of maternity leave on 100% of their wage. So Emma McCandy talked there about the loneliness of training and feeling a pressure to go in to training while she was still pregnant. Presumably before she gives birth, her maternity leave doesn't kick in. Is the norm that a female player is on full pay across the 9 months and then the 14 weeks maternity leave kicks in? Because this is not obviously a normal profession whereby most pregnant women in most jobs can work for the vast majority of their pregnancy. That footballers can't do that, obviously. So to what extent does 14 weeks cut the mustard here?
I mean, it all depends on the person, how quickly they come back. But it's not long enough. It's definitely not long enough to try and get back to the level you were at. Absolutely not. And the problem is, I'd just like to say with Emma, Reading did pay the maternity leave, which is for me the basic thing to do, but they did honour that contract. But the problem is that it's not a normal job. You're right. It's, Emma had to go into training as any woman would go into work, but it's the aftercare and coming back. And you as a club, you want to get this player back to the level they were at. And Emma McCandy is an extremely important player for Reading as well. And they just don't have the knowledge on how to do that. Yes, they have doctors and physios, but these are, the physios are trained to get players back from injuries and things like that. And that was Emma's main problem.
Right.
And it wasn't the pay, although they aren't paid enough anyway, because to get childcare and to have to pay childcare and stuff like that, it's just not enough. But Emma's problem was when she was coming back that she didn't know when to push herself. She didn't know what to do. She was left on her own a lot. And that was really difficult for her. And, Emma's extremely competitive as well. She wanted to get back as soon as possible, but nobody really could help her in that aspect.
Okay, so that was more so her issue maybe than the pay, which is obviously important.
Yeah, but she also was what I consider lucky, because before that, she said herself, the contracts only came into play as she was coming out of work, going on to maternity leave. Whereas before that, there was absolutely nothing. And it was a choice. You either have a baby and stop playing. But we had players in our team at Arsenal that had kids and came back. But it was because our manager at the time was very good, and he was very, kind of up to date, really more modern, and he allowed time off and he allowed them to bring their kids in to work with them, and just kind of like allowed that balance of having a kid and playing football.
Louise, you're perfectly placed to give us the experience of coming back to sport after giving birth. I think you surprised, I think the video got millions of views in the end. Aisling O'Reilly was speaking to you after an All-Ireland semi-final against Mayo. You were in your Kerry jersey, and it was brilliant in a way, very progressive for sport at large. You were talking about, well, I've been breastfeeding my newborn son in the dressing room there, and then I went out and played the match. And you have a perfect insight, I suppose, to give us about presumably the dearth of knowledge when it comes to how mothers should come back from pregnancy and approach sport.
Yeah, definitely. I think dearth is a good kind of descriptive word for what's out there. I suppose similar to Emma, when I would have finished the Kerry season 2021 playing my last game around 8 or 9 weeks. Now, obviously GAA is an amateur sport, so there wasn't any contracts or anything at play. And I did speak to my managers even before the game and got medical clearance and that. But I suppose it all comes back to even as well for women who are trying to have a baby and play sport at the same time. Like, you're putting it off because you want to get the most out of your sporting career, which isn't great either. I mean, and if you run into difficulty then trying to conceive, you have all this potential guilt around that. And I guess we were really lucky, and I didn't know if I ever would get back, but kind of as things progressed and the season was going with Kerry, there was a slight glimmer of hope, and I kind of went for it hammer and tongs. And to be honest, it was incredibly difficult. I certainly didn't get back to my peak or anywhere near it in time for championship. And I suppose it's more to say I was on the panel as opposed to actually playing. But how it worked out well for me was built on more relationships with people around me, including the management and the team, rather than any actual structure, rather than any blueprint to follow. And similarly, you know, just like Emma was saying, the S&Cs, physio, they're all there. They're trained around players returning from injury, not returning from sort of a kind of women's health specialist point of view. So all of that I would have done off my own kind of bat, went off and got like private women's health physio appointments to make sure I was safe to progress in terms of like my pelvic health and post surgery, because I ended up having a section as well. But I guess I was lucky in that from my, I suppose, international rugby experience, I had done an awful lot of gym on my own, and I had a fairly good idea of like my body, and we had a gym out the back, so I was able to, you know, luxuries that other players don't have. I was able to maybe tailor my own training a lot through that knowledge. But I guess that the saddest thing for me was the amount of players, both in my club and in the county team, who were like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're back. It's great." But I thought after having a baby, you couldn't come back, or it just wasn't seen. And it's just so sad that that's the norm out there, because just like we said at the beginning, the prime kind of years for, I suppose, fertility and having babies are also your prime years for reaching your peak performance in sport. And the two should be able to go hand in hand, but they really don't.
And Louise, you work as a physio, so you've a deeper understanding than your average person of the area of sports science as well. For postnatal athletes, so it sounds, listening to you, like there's no real blueprint that is readily available. I saw in a piece in the Irish Independent that you were speaking to Sinead Kassan, and you remember asking even the public health nurse when she came to the house, so when can I, for instance, play contact sport? And it was a pretty blank look that came back at you. So that knowledge just isn't out there across the board.
No, and look, in fairness, public health nurse has a lot to cover from baby, from the cradle to the grave, as they say out in the community. So I wouldn't expect her to maybe have that knowledge as well.
No, and to be fair to her, it's suggested it's not something she's been asked all that often.
She
maybe
said she was never asked that before. So yeah, the knowledge just isn't out there. And when I went searching, there are some guidelines, there's kind of more UK based guidelines around returning to run. But it was literally starting running at 12 weeks, whereas I was back in McCarry at 10 weeks. Now, I wouldn't say that's the way to do it. It was just the way the season was going. If I wanted to get back, I had to get back pretty ASAP. And then there was some other guidelines coming in from the American side. And I guess, it's so individualized because it's based on your as an athlete, it's based on your training age, what you've done before, your level of fitness, and then obviously the pregnancy that you had, the type of delivery that you had, and then how you are right now. I mean, there's such high rates of things like postnatal depression, how you're maybe feeding your baby, is your baby sleeping at all, the desire to get back. There's just so many variables that I can see why maybe there was no guidelines up until now, but I think it does need to change, because if women do want to get back playing, that should be achievable. And we're not talking about, investing millions of euro or whatever it is into finding these guidelines. It's probably mostly common sense based, but there's just very little out there at the moment.
Emma, it's quite interesting. You said that things were pretty progressive at Arsenal just by dint of having the right manager at the right time, and maybe those Arsenal players were lucky as a result. The FA imposed this 14-week minimum. That's not to say that should be the maximum. Are many clubs going above and beyond and making things, ultra easy for prospective mothers? What's your sense of the WSL at large, beyond Reading, beyond Arsenal?
Yeah, I mean, the FA has the guidelines in place and the policy in place, but as Louise says, it changes all the time. It can't be specific to certain players, and I think some clubs are too specific with those guidelines. Like, obviously, we had Lou Paul's coming back from having a baby 4 months afterwards, and she's straight back in training, looks extremely fit. She looks like she's ready to play. With Emma Mitchell is different. She had complications, so it's going to take her a bit longer. And Reading knew that. Like, you can't force people to train if they can't train. It is literally, if they're fit to train, they can train. So, yeah, I mean, everyone's different, and the club will treat it differently. But for example, like in the case of Reading, like they don't have, their policy is no children in at the training ground. I think it's to do with insurance or something like that, where other clubs I know for a fact do allow that, because they're going to accommodate the fact that moms might not be able to get a sitter on a Sunday or on a, you know, Monday evening at 8:00 or whatever, because it's not your normal 9 to 5. So I do know other clubs do accommodate that, and they allow, maybe they come in for a cool down, or they'll have someone in there that can take care of the baby while the mom is training. But that's not a policy. It's not, you know, written in the contract. It just depends on who's at the club and their power in the club, I suppose.
I mean, this is more of a cultural question almost, but like, was it when it came to motherhood, was there ever an atmosphere where it was discouraged? Was there ever, you know, like for a manager, it's akin to, well, I've just lost, you might as well have a cruciate injury. Like, I've lost you for X number of months now. Was there ever a sense of, girls, big season, let's not have anybody get, you know, it's not, I presume it never went.
Nobody's allowed to get pregnant.
Yeah, but I presume it was never that dysfunctional down the years.
No, it wasn't. But, you know, as a player, as Louise says, that you want to play at the top level when you're in your prime. And if you were planning on having a baby, you're basically saying, I'm not going to play for a year, which is a really difficult decision for any athlete. And the fact is that it wasn't really known. It wasn't really a common thing. If somebody got pregnant, it was like, oh, see you, bye. Might never see you again. Have a good life type of thing.
Because contracts wouldn't be especially long either.
No, you know, and it wouldn't. And it just wasn't done. Like players had kids and they just didn't come back for it. And they weren't really encouraged to. In fact, the first person I was kind of gobsmacked by was Katie Chapman, because Katie already had a child when she was at Fulham, and then she came to Arsenal and she fell pregnant soon after that. And I was like, oh, wow, congratulations and all this. You know, we're heading into Champions League. It's a shame. And she's like, I'll be back for the final. You get to the final, I'll be back. I was like, oh, okay, brilliant. But I was a little bit shocked by it. But again, it is down to mentality and how they're encouraged to get back as well. And I think at Arsenal, they were always encouraged. Katie was training out like that. I'd say she was 7 months gone and she was still running around with us. Obviously, we were taking very good care of her.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it just depends on the club, which I don't think it should be that. There should be certain, you know, in the contracts, and players should feel like it's their right to have a kid if they want to have a kid and be encouraged to do so.
Yes. So there's a degree of catch up here. Louise, you did allude to the priorities female players would have, their sporting career versus having a child, and often falling into the very understandable, I was going to say trap or tendency to put it off. And then maybe, you know, I mean, I think the older we get, we all realize how common fertility problems are. And so there's you mentioned, God, would there be a guilt there? I don't know. And it probably applies to women in their careers right across the board, but certainly in sport, when your window is so small in comparison with other sports, I don't know whose responsibility it is, but you would kind of hope the point is made to younger players or female players in their mid-20s, like, this is something you really should think about. You know, consider your fertility. You consider freezing your eggs if you want, but like almost an open dialogue. If think about your sporting career and your ambitions to be a mother very much in tandem. And it doesn't sound like that conversation is happening in a very open way, maybe listening to you.
Well, that conversation, like, I've played across 3 sports and it's never happened. I think it's more, it's a bit more global now. It's a bit more societal that, you know, I even could see the way people look at you when as soon as you're pregnant, they're already writing you off. And it might be just, you know, your neighbour or a friend. You're like, gosh, well, that's the end of it now. And the amount of people...
Even before that, Louise, when you get married, the next thing is, oh, when you're having kids. And it's like in people's mindset straight away, right?
Yeah. Even when I got engaged at a Dubai Sevens tournament. And I remember the head coach thought it was looked a bit, I don't know. And then someone else said, I bet you he thinks you're pregnant, which I thought was hilarious. And like that was probably his next thought process, that I was gone for the rest of the season or something. But yeah, I think it's more of a societal thing that people in general, but in and out of sport, just start to see you differently. And there's probably even a bit of an expectation that you should be at home minding the baby, and that's all you should do. Because like, it's difficult coming back, but also what's changed now is we keep talking about the pregnancy, okay, 9 months, and your body completely changes, and then you have to go back to the fitness level. But you also have a baby to mind that's growing and then starting to crawl and starting to walk, and you're talking about babysitting. And like, often as sports go, your partner's probably a lot of the time involved in sport as well, and it's trying to juggle that side of it. So and if it's not encouraged or facilitated, or even just in the media, like seen as a norm thing, it's just almost subconsciously written off. So I think everyone has the kind of it's not just management, because in fairness, a manager wants all their best players on the pitch. I don't think that's an unfair thing for them to want. I don't expect them going around telling you maybe consider having a family early, but at the same time, in societally, if it becomes normal that, oh yeah, she's having a baby, it's up to her then if she wants to come back and try and play again after that, and that her own like support network support that if they can, and the team and the management and just the general, I suppose, media world, social media, that it's not seen as, oh, you're not gone off, you're still playing, so I think it goes a bit bigger than just within the team environment.
Yeah, and Emma, final thought, it should be encouraged, it should be openly talked about. You would hate to think of young players putting their sporting career first because they felt they had to, and then meeting problems in later life when they wanted to become a parent and having a huge sense of regret, and that should not be the cost of a sports career.
No, absolutely not. And when you think about football contracts, a lot of them are 2 years, 1 year, 2 years, and to fall pregnant in that, it is difficult then, to try and get another contract, which again is another problem. But yeah, absolutely should be spoken about, and players need to be honest about it and to feel like they can be honest with their managers and coaches, say, yeah, I'd like to have a baby within this time. But I'm not sure that's going to happen anytime soon, to be quite honest.
Right. You still think there's a way to go, clearly?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So that was a feature on challenges facing mothers returning to sports, specifically football in the UK. Emma Byrne and Ireland Rugby International and Kerry footballer Lewis Galvin spoke to Joe Malloy, and you could see and hear the difficulties that they face. The mere fact that some of them even get married, and clubs start to look on them differently and not offer them, the support, and hoping that changes, because, why would you not support, an athlete because they have a child, and again, like I mentioned earlier, they support the men, because they know that it's not going to affect the men's performance per se, because they're not the one having a child, and when there's an emergency or whatever, they aren't the ones rushing to go. But yeah, it's just unfortunate, and as they mentioned, we hope that there is a change for some of those clubs in that sport, specifically in football in the UK and all around the world. All right, so we're going to take a break right here on Sports Talk, and when we come back, we'll have some more.
Magic sparkling, non-alcoholic wine, guaranteed to have a good time.
White grape, red grape, strawberry, peach. Any celebration, the buckle up reach. Pink and blue magic, papa baby shower. Mixed fruit, pineapple, coconut, good for every hour. Of the Jamaican, sorry. Mix or straight, everybody can manage.
Make magical moments with Magic Sparkling.
Every time my son send the liquor ball for me have to go sit down and waff all day like me have nothing else to do. No, sir, me no fear do this.
Tired of spending all day at the wharf to clear your barrel?
Driver, turn up that the little bit for me there.
Starting May 1, use contactless clearance to clear your non-commercial shipments and avoid the long wait. Call Jamaica Customs today at 876-922-51408 or email contactlessclearance@jca.gov.jm.
But God goody, me I go call customs and learn about the contactless clearance. Hook me up.
Less waiting, more convenience. Try Customs contactless clearance today.
We're celebrating 30 years of music and family. 30 years of love. We're celebrating 30 years of love. We're celebrating 30 years of love. 30 years of love.
Magic sparkling non-alcoholic wine, guaranteed to have a good time.
White grape, red grape, strawberry, peach. Any celebration, the buckle up reach. Pink and blue magic, papa baby shower. Mixed fruit, pineapple, coconut, good for every hour. Of the Jamaican, sorry. Mix or straight, everybody can manage.
Make magical moments with Magic Sparkling.
Every time my son send the liquor ball for me have to go sit down and waff all day like me have nothing else to do. No, sir, me no fear do this.
Tired of spending all day at the wharf to clear your barrel?
Driver, turn up that the little bit for me there.
Starting May 1, use contactless clearance to clear your non-commercial shipments and avoid the long wait. Call Jamaica Customs today at 876-922-51408 or email contactlessclearance@jca.gov.jm.
But God goody, me I go call customs and learn about the contactless clearance. Hook me up.
Less waiting, more convenience. Try Customs contactless clearance today.
Here's an invitation for churches and community organizations. If you're hosting an event which offers free admission, tell us about it and we'll get the word out in Love FM's bulletin board. Simply email your information to bulletinboard@love101.org. Love FM's bulletin board for church and community events with free admission and certain fundraising events. Conditions apply. Listen to Bulletin Board on Love 101 Saturdays at 4:55 p.m. Love FM's Bulletin Board is on your family station, Love 101.
And he knows my name. Here is your opportunity to connect with someone who will listen, pray, and give guidance. It's the Ministry of Counseling and Prayer of the Edgewater Baptist Church. Please call 876-220-6474 or 876-332-7956. Weekdays between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Please talk to someone if you're finding it particularly challenging to cope during this period of crisis. Someone is waiting for your call. Please reach out today, 876-220-6474 or 876-332-7956. It's the telephone counseling and prayer ministry of the Edgewater Baptist Church. A reminder that somebody cares. Endorsed by Love 101.
When I come to the end of myself, Father, carry me. To you, Lord, we give the thanks.
Every Sunday, Love 101 FM brings you times of worship in music and the spoken word to encourage and uplift. Tune in at 8 a.m. for a powerful word from the Kingston Open Bible Church and for the blessing that awaits you. At 10 a.m., it's time for Divine Service with the Bethel Baptist Church, where words of encouragement are shared. Then at 11 a.m., it's time to pause for Sunday service at the New Testament Church of God shares the word of the Lord. The United Church service begins at 3:30 Sunday afternoon with words of inspiration. The Anglican Diocese brings words to strengthen you at 6 p.m. Be sure to join every Sunday to worship in God's presence with a series of specially prepared messages in words and musical inspiration by tuning in to Love 101 FM, the family station.
Lord, we give the thanks for the way you have.
Hi, I'm Shelly Ann Fraser Price, and you're listening to Love FM, the family station.
Just around 3 minutes to go before we have to end it on sports talk. Like I mentioned at the start of the show, we were supposed to have a very special guest. Unfortunately, that didn't work out, so I truly apologize for that. I will reveal the name at some point because they could come back, and I don't want to ruin that surprise. So just stay tuned. I promise that they will be on the show, and we'll still get asked them about some mothers related questions. So don't you worry about that. Seeing greetings from Claudine, Paulette, and Nicole as usual. Thank you so much for tuning in. So just before we go, I just wanted to highlight some of the very, I guess, popular mothers who are athletes. Shelly Ann Fraser Price, obviously, being one. Alison Felix, who remember gave birth, and then she came back and won another set of medals. So Alison Felix is one. We mentioned Serena Williams, the woman who she was chasing for a very long time, Margaret Court. She had 3 children during her career and only retired from the game after she had become pregnant a 4th time. So imagine winning 24 Grand Slams, and part of it during that period, she actually had 3 children. Wow, that's a lot. Christine Armstrong, U.S. cyclist, Olympic gold medalist. She is one. Isabel Wirth, who has also won 6 Olympic gold medals, 4 Olympic silver medals, and 9 world championship titles. That is a whole lot. And as many of you know, Kim Clijsters, former tennis star, she also was successful as a mother, and the list goes on. I could read those all day, really, but we'd be here all day. And unfortunately, my time here is quickly ending, but I want to thank you, as always, for joining me. It was truly a great time. To all the mothers out there, have a great Mother's Day tomorrow, children, and even fathers. Remember to treat the mothers properly tomorrow, whatever they like. Try and get it if it's in your budget, because we know things stay in this economy. But remember, Sports Talk happens every Saturday afternoon from 1 to 2 p.m. right here on the family station, and it was brought to you by the Jamaica Customs Agency, Country Above Self. Please enjoy your weekend, stay safe, and as always, watch some sports.
Hamilton Smokehouse. Our deli meats now come with more today. The best thing next to sliced bread. A member of the best dressed chicken family. The time by Hamilton Smokehouse is...
It's 2 p.m. We've been asked to announce the death of Isola McCollum Blake. Isola McCollum Blake of Harborview, Kingston, died April 10, leaving 3 children, 11 grandchildren, 7 great-grandchildren, 3 sisters, 7 brothers, nieces, nephews, other relatives, and friends. Funeral service for Isola McCollum Blake will be held Sunday, May 14 at the Riversdale Seventh-day Adventist Church in Riversdale District at 1 p.m. Interment follows in the family plot in Riversdale. May the dearly departed rest in peace, and may God grant comfort to those who mourn. You're tuned to Love 101 FM, the family station.
Come here, Lizzie. We have to leave now, but I'm so glad I can carry my Love 101 FM with me anywhere me go.
How you do that?
What do you mean? I have the Love 101 FM app on my phone, so no matter wherever support me go, I just click on the app and props. My Love 101 is right here with me on me